I'm gonna bake a cake. Why? Because I want cake? I was talking with some of the guys at work and got to thinking, can I make a whole wheat cake? It's gonna be a chocolate cake with coffee in it. I have never done this before. Let's see if this turns out. So I have whole wheat berries, this hard red wheat. It is the wrong wheat for baking cake. And it comes out, floury. I washed my hands, don't worry. Anywho, I need a cup and a half. I think that's a half-cup measure. And it's going to take a little bit of grinding to get there. See you in a bit. It took roughly 4 or 5 minutes. Anyway, 2 more to go. Here's 2 of 3, so that's 1 cup of flour. That one took a bit longer. Takes a little bit of effort. And at this point you might be wondering, why the heck would he grind his own flour? I mean, that stuff's like really cheap in the store. But it's not whole wheat, and it's not fresh, and all the other excuses. Honestly, it's just something to do. I can sit here playing really loud music and just grind the flour. Then I bake bread that I can say, I made it myself. I ground the flour. There's really no other reason. Anyway, everybody's gotta have their hobbies. I haven't made a cake yet, so that's why I'm doing this now, making a cake. Normally when I am making bread, I don't measure anything. I put about a cup of water into the, and by a cup I mean I get a mug out of the cupboard, fill it with water, and dump it into this glass bowl. Then I grind enough flour to make it kind of a soupy mix. Once it's kind of thickening up a bit, but it's still very soupy, I just go sit down, let it sit for an hour. That lets the gluten kind of activate and start glopping everything together. So usually in the soupy state, I'll throw in about a teaspoon of sugar and some active dry yeast. Mix that in. The yeast will get started. You don't need a lot of sugar. The yeast can actually break down sugars in the flour. It just takes longer. So after that hour, this is getting kind of boring, isn't it? After the hour, I'll come back, grind enough flour to make it not sticky enough so I can just pick it up. I'll grind some flour onto the countertop and then knead the dough. So yeah, after the dough, I guess, is kneaded, let it sit for, say, 20-30 minutes or so. I'll take some vegetable shortening, grease the pan that I put it into, Then over the layer of vegetable shortening, I'll grind a little bit more flour into it just so it, just barely coats the shortening. Once the bread has risen for a bit, I will plop it into the bread pan. This recipe roughly makes 1 loaf, which is perfect for me because, no preservatives. It's going to go bad fairly quick, and I can't just sit there and eat an entire loaf. I mean, I can. Anywho, once it's in the pan, I let it rise till it is at least up to the top of the pan, if not a little bit over. I'll put a slice right down the middle of it, and bake it somewhere between, say, 375 to 425. It varies. I just Google search bread cooking temp, and if I've used eggs, if I'm in a rush and I don't want to activate the gluten, I'll throw in a couple eggs. Makes it stick, or makes it so it's not all crumbly. Otherwise, sometimes I'll throw in some oil. I don't know, the recipe always changes. It's just whatever I feel like throwing into it. Recently I tried using coffee instead of water. That turned out really good. Time to make that last half cup of flour. Woohoo! There's 3 of 3, so that is a cup and a half of flour. I should consult the cake recipe for the next step. I've never made a cake from scratch. A cup of white sugar and a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. Cup seems excessive, but that's half cup. And there's a full cup of sugar. I hope that's a half cup measure. All my ratios will be off. We're good. And 1/4 cup cocoa powder. Yay. No, this one's a 1/4 cup. Don't know what the other one is. Looks like half. And the next, a teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/3 cup of veggie oil, and baking soda, and then half of this of salt, and the salt. Now gotta mix all this together till it's all uniform, and then we start adding the liquid ingredients. It's all mixed up. Now for the 1/3 cup of olive oil. Recipe calls for veggie oil. I don't have any. This is the oil I've got. So I'm going to use it. It's too late to go back now. And a teaspoon of vanilla. Yeah, that smells like vanilla. Next, I think it calls for vinegar. A teaspoon of vinegar and a cup of water. I might use coffee instead of water, because who doesn't have coffee at the end of a long day? Okay, fine. I just made the coffee. And in goes the coffee. Well, half of it. And in goes the other half of the coffee, fortified with whiskey. Yeah, I forgot to mention that part. Okay. And the vinegar. This can be mixed into an even consistency, dumped into a prepared pan, greased with veggie shortening, and baked in the oven at 350 degrees. It looks like cake batter. Oven just beeped, so preheating is done. You can dump this into the pan and bake it. It's in the pan. There's no egg in it, so I'm gonna go ahead and try it. It's pretty good. Alright. Guess what I forgot to pull out of the oven? Curing a pan. I guess it's double cured. Take two. Grab it by the edge and stick it in the oven. Woohoo! Alright, it's going at 350 for cooking time. 45 minutes. And like every cooking show ever, here is one we have prepared in advance. It has been 10 minutes. That looks decidedly cake-like. Let's just hope it... I gotta clean the oven door. Let's just hope it doesn't collapse. I think that's a thing cakes do. And 23 minutes to go. Yeah. It smells quite awesome. 4 minutes to go. And it looks delicious. I'm gonna clean that oven. Okay, apparently most of that nasty is inside. Alright, down to the last minute. Quick life hack, I couldn't find my toothpicks. So I'm gonna use a piece of spaghetti. Yay, life hacks. It is time. Properly fogged up the screen for a little bit. Poke, it comes out clean. Poke, he's clean. A little melty. Woohoo! Let's pull it out. And do this one-handed with my horribly nasty glove. Ta-da! Greasing the edge appears to have worked. It doesn't appear to be sticking to the edge. I don't know how long to let it cool before I can turn it out onto a plate. And then I shall frost it. For those that care, covering up the name, this is apparently vegan. And so is the cake. You don't care, but, well, I think the neighbor's shooting a raccoon. Or fireworks. He does both. Definitely fireworks. I love living far enough out that I can hear gunfire from my... So some of you inner city people may also be able to live far enough out to hear gunfire. I guess the difference is peaceful gunfire. Yes, there's such a thing. A strange and wonderful thing happened. It came out in one piece. And it looks kind of cakey textured. So I scraped a little bit of the stuff from the pan. Tastes like no cake I've ever tasted. There's a hint of whiskey, hint of chocolate. Okay, a lot of chocolate. Coffee. And the whole wheat definitely gives it some flavor. So I'm going to go ahead and frost it and stick it in the fridge for tomorrow. And it's frosted. I certainly hope this IT work thing pans out, because I don't think any bakery is gonna hire me. So, get to see how it all turns out tomorrow. I'll have the guinea pigs or the co-workers try it out. Neato.